and the crowds have been a little larger. We kind of anticipated that, but this is great. We're glad you're here. The way we run it is this. The first 25 minutes or less is a presentation, and then please hold questions till the end. And the last 45 minutes to an hour is Q&A. If there's that many, we'll stay until all questions are answered. We are being as upfront as possible, answering every question we can. You will witness that, I believe. If there are follow-up questions, then we can answer those too. But we try to put maybe a third of the rest of this evening is presentation and 2/3 is question. So welcome again. My name is Jack Balderman. I am the superintendent of CUSD 201. I'm starting my 13th year in the district. My last 2 years as superintendent. My first 11 years as the principal at Westmont High School. And I am so grateful for that experience. I have been in education approaching 40 years. I know I don't look that old, right? But I have loved every part of my journey as an educator. Teaching at my alma mater, teaching in the city of Chicago, being a principal of an all-girls Catholic school, believe it or not, being principal and superintendent of larger high schools. Loved every step of it, but there's no place that I love as much as Westmont. And I think if any of you know the students that I've worked with, they would tell you that same. They mean everything to me. I owe a tremendous debt to this community, and I want great things for CUSD 201 because I have taken so much from my experience. So I'm here today to give a little background about how we came to the conclusion to ask the community for $74.6 million, which is a good amount of money to ask a community. But I think it's money well spent. And the Board of Education and many administrators, and we took a lot of community input. We really wrestled with what was the right decision. I'm going to explain some of that to you tonight about how we came to that decision. But let me tell you, all that we want is what's best for our students, our teachers, our taxpayers, and our community at large. I grew up in a place called Hometown, Illinois. You ever hear of this place?
Yes.
It's not too far from here. 6 of us and half a duplex with 1,000 square feet. And I never missed a meal, so I'm not claiming that, I was ever poor per se. But I grew up in what would be considered, lower middle class background. And I was the first person from my family to ever graduate from college. And I paid my own tuition by working as a custodian and as a dishwasher and a security guard and in retail sales, and I was an RA. And never went on spring break. I had to pay my own way. So I know the value of a dollar, and I take it very seriously. When we connect with our students, and I make it a point every year to look every single one of our students in the eye and say to them, I am so proud of how hard you work, but we need to work hard, because when we're in this building working very hard, your family, your neighbors, the community, the businesses here are out working very hard also. And they're taking part of their hard-earned money so you can have an excellent education. And we owe it to them to give our best effort every day. And what I've found is the amazing young people in this community have responded. Nobody outworks the students of 201. And I am very proud of that. And that's the way they honor the commitment that this community has made for their education. And I'll show you some of those results. My part-time job is as a consultant and a presenter, and I've done that for the last 20 years. And I've literally worked in 49 states and Canada, almost 900 presentations in the last 20 years. Mississippi has not seen the wisdom of hiring me yet, but hopefully that will change, because I'd like to say I've worked in all 50 states. But I've learned a lot in those journeys. And part of it is I've seen hundreds of schools around the country. And every time I walk in, immediately it's a reflection of the commitment of the community to education. Now, many of you have been in this building or did a tour. This is what I'll tell you and I'll show you in a minute. We are one of the highest achieving districts in the state of Illinois, and quite frankly on the verge of becoming one of the top performing districts in the nation. That's the way we honor our community and our taxpayers, by doing great work. If you're going to invest, you should have a great school system, not a good one. And that is what we've accomplished, and I'll show you the evidence. Don't just take my word as a proud administrator. I will show you detailed evidence to support that case. But the facilities, especially K through 5, are nowhere near the quality of what we deliver. Frankly, to put it in a word, I'm embarrassed by them. If I would say our academic performance is in the top 5%, our facilities are in the bottom 20%. And that is through no fault of our maintenance crew. This building, as you may know, is 94 years old. It has reached its lifetime. And replacing it, as I think Joe points out in his tour and in the video, the HVAC system alone would be $8 to $10 million. That's what it costs. That's just the HVAC system, which is at the point of replacement. We're not even talking about Miller. So I'll outline the options that we came to in the next few minutes. But I want to share with you, you are part of a championship team. What we have done as a community is special. It's incredible, actually. We are the envy of many school boards and communities and administrations in this region. They talk about us at times at their board meetings and say, why is Westmont getting these results and we're not? Well, that's for real, and I'll show you some of that. So, we are at the crossroads. We are achieving academic excellence, and we are about continuous improvement, never resting on our laurels. We are bound to be a premier district in our state and nation. If we don't get the funds to support the building needs that are very real, we will have to start tapping into our annual budget that was not meant for that and start reducing some of the services and put that excellence in jeopardy. That is the reality, and I'll show you the story in the next few minutes. So we are at the crossroads. It is very interesting. Without even making this presentation, and I made a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce the other day for Westmont. These people also love Westmont. Without me saying that, they said the same exact thing, that they see our town at a crossroads. We are on a trajectory to do amazing things, but that could be in jeopardy, and we don't want that to happen, because what we've built is too sacred and too important. So, I want to talk about academic excellence for just a moment. You have in your hands, please, if you didn't get one, we can get one for you, this handout. If you could take a look at it for just a moment. I'll tell you the story. So on the front, you see this magazine article, Chicago Magazine, the most widely read magazine in the region. So I'll tell you the story of this. I was on my way to Texas this summer to present to 2,000 educators from across the country. And of course, I'm talking about academic excellence in CUSD 201. And I saw this magazine in the bookstore. It says Chicago, the suburbs, the best places to live. And immediately, I thought, please let Westmont be in there. I hope to God it is. And lo and behold, you can open to the second page. There it is. What does it say? Where your young family can blossom. They only mention 3 towns out of 150 suburban towns. Westmont is featured. Why? Please read in the article. A hidden gem for families, largely due to its highly rated schools. We know there's a connection between the quality of the school system and property values, and that is undeniable. So it's not me who's saying this. This is Chicago Magazine. Local real estate people see the excellence we're achieving. We're getting that notice. That wasn't always true. 15, 20 years ago, that's not what was happening here in CUSD 201, but it is today. How? What happened? In your packet, you will also have this slide. This, to me, is incredibly important. Before we talk about all the awards and the recognitions and the ratings and the test scores, nothing is more important, in my mind, in a school system than student-to-teacher trust. The students are why we are here. I know you entrust to us, those of you who are parents or community members too, because those are your kids too. They're all our kids, whether we have kids currently or not. These are our community members and our youngest community members. Do the students feel respected and cared for when they walk into our buildings? The highest rating for student-to-teacher trust is at Westmont High School. The University of Chicago, one of the top research institutions in the world, put together and compiled a survey that they give anonymously to 98% plus of our students. High school students, anonymous. I know you're paying attention to that, right? And I love high school students. What do they say? The most important question, more important than test scores, is do the students feel cared for? Do they trust the teachers who they spend hours every day with? Here are the results. I didn't get the survey. I didn't create the survey. The Illinois State Board of Education commissioned the University of Chicago to do this. What are the scores? I don't know if you can read that. 99, 99, 99, 99. There is no 100. It's the highest possible score. You can go on the internet, and go to University of Chicago 5 Essential Survey and reference Westmont High School, and the data is there for the entire world to see. The highest student-to-teacher trust rating in the state of Illinois since they started doing this survey. Now, if that doesn't grab you, if you don't feel a sense of tremendous pride that this is the school system and the schools that we are building, and you are a part of that, a championship team. But it goes beyond this metric. This is also in your packet with an explanation. If you could turn to this page. Since the 2018 school year, the Illinois State Board of Education devised a system. They use multiple criteria to rank every single high school in the state of Illinois, all 650. Since they instituted that system, that measurement system, we didn't ask for this. They compiled it. They put the metrics together. They put the criteria together. And then they come up with a ranking system. So this ranks from the lowest achieving schools to every single high school in Illinois. This is also accessible, and the directions to get to this website are in your packet. Which high school is #1 in Illinois since 2018? Cumulative ranking. Westmont High School. Not New Trier, not Hinsdale Central, not Stevenson, not Glenbrook, not Lake Forest, that have more resources, much wealthier communities. This is the Illinois State Board of Education. And I didn't say top 1%. Cumulatively since 2018, #1. I have such tremendous pride in what we accomplished together. This speaks to who we are as a school system. And I wish in the next week or two, the rankings will come out for our junior high. I would look at the data. I would be shocked if we are not in the top 5% for our junior high. And Miller and Manning are following. This is what we've done as a team. Now, there's the magazine articles, a plethora of awards. 10 out of 10 on great schools, the National Blue Ribbon Award, #1 in the country for professional learning communities, most improved on 2 national polls in the country. This is the excellence. And it goes beyond awards and ratings and test scores. We have built, not perfect, continuous improvement, but a beautiful district where our kids are well taken care of. That would be in jeopardy if we have to start funneling some of our annual budget that was meant to accomplish the things we're accomplishing to build a new school or to do major renovation. That is truly in jeopardy. And the other thing I'm going to say is, some of you did the tour. The rooms that we educate our kids in are far inferior to anybody else in this region. So, this is just an example of where we're at today. And not because our maintenance team did not work hard. It's because there comes a point in time when a building needs to be replaced, not just continuously renovated. And if we did choose to renovate, we're going to make the argument that we thought about very carefully. That would have been a poor way to use the taxpayers' valuable dollars. But this is what we have. This is what other places have. These are our classrooms. This is what other schools in the region have. This is what we could have. A new building the community can be proud of. And it would be a wise investment and a great way to show what we think about education in Westmont. And truly a place where when teachers teach, and we'll have some of our teachers speak to you, they're not sweating. They don't have the air conditioning running while they're trying to teach class. They have adequate technology. We have adequate ADA compliance so people don't get injured on our property, which does happen. And the government says we're out of ADA compliance. Where when we have the need to do mass announcements, we don't have a PA system that works. These are things that are not meant to be paid for through the annual budget. We have been fiscally responsible. Take a look at our tax rate compared to other local districts. We are not at the top, we're not in the middle, we're on the lower end. So our tax rate is a fair tax rate. We also have earned the highest rating from the Illinois State Board of Education for 20 years. In the last 7 years, the highest rating from the Illinois School Business Officials International. Last year, we ran a balanced budget. This year, we have submitted a balanced budget. If we can have the funds to build a new building, we will continue with balanced budgets and not ask the taxpayers for additional funding, as sometimes happens in communities that ask for a tax rate income for spending. We do not need that if we can build the facilities that our kids deserve. So people say we're not fiscally sound. That's ludicrous. I'm going to give you one quick example. We are always, with Hawkeyes, looking at what we can do to best spend the money in this district. For one of the first times, we had people who were registering and attending our schools who there was questions about whether or not they actually lived in our district. So we went through a very intense process. And what happened was there were a handful of students, almost a dozen, who we felt did not live in our district, but were taking advantage of our school system. The Illinois State Board of Education, the Regional Office of Education, and our own attorney said, just enroll them. It's not worth the hassle. We said, no, that's not fair to our taxpayers. And with a lot of fighting and a lot of pain and sleepless nights, we held the line and saved about $400,000 by saying, we're sorry, you do not live in this district, you can no longer attend these schools. So when people say that we're not fiscally sound, I put forward balanced budgets, an excellent tax rate, 20 years of recognition by ISBE, 7 years of recognition here, and a continuous fight to protect the taxpayers, and hire quality people, and balanced budgets, and hire the best people we can with an eye towards fiscal responsibility. People say, well, why can't you pay for this out of your annual budget? In Illinois, that's not what budgets are meant for. The annual budget is meant to pay for the running of the district, the salaries, the benefits, the professional development, paying the light bill, etc., and some minor maintenance. But Illinois budgets, if they were built and gave districts enough money to build a building, you could imagine abuse of that money. Because what they would have, they'd have so much money they could build a new building or do major renovations. Some districts may say, well, we've got this much money, we can pour it into other expenses and not be careful. So in wisdom, the way the system's set up, if you want to do an expenditure of that magnitude, you have to ask your taxpayers. And that's what we're doing. So you can't take from this bucket and put it into this bucket. Minor repairs, minor events, yes, but not replacing a 94-year-old building. And by the way, this community has not passed a referendum in 50 years. That's true. That's factual. There were multiple attempts. They were not successful. No referendum has been passed in this district in 50 years. So we're coming to the voters to get this approved. That is a fair and honest way, and people can say yes or no. Now, there is a senior exemption that we could help you with if you're interested, if you're over 65. But my real point is this. This is just a sampling of local districts that have passed a referendum in recent years. The two previous districts that I worked with passed referendums, larger than this one, and well, one was the same size and one was much larger. That is what I'm used to as an educator of 40 years in Illinois. We are not the first district to ask for a referendum. We're not the second. We're not the third. We're not in the middle of the pack. We're at the back end of the pack. So this is something that everyone else in the area has seen the wisdom of doing. And it's time. We cannot kick the can down the road anymore. We're putting that excellence that we have established and built together as a community in jeopardy. Why are we asking for this amount of money? We have experts. We went through a process to hire the best architects and community engagement experts and construction managers to help us in this process. People who do this for a lifetime, people whose companies do this every day. So I'm going to have one of our leaders come forward, introduce himself, and tell you how we arrived at these numbers. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. My name is Joe Bob Nicholas, Nicholas & Associates, construction manager. The main market that we're in is public K-12. This is what we do. And I want to talk a little bit about the $63.4 million and how that relates to a new facility. So how do we come up with the number? So there's a couple main points I'd like to make. There's 96,000 square feet of new area, okay? How do we apply a number to it? Okay, the biggest thing that we look at is recently opened bids of comparable scope of work. So two that we just opened up were two new schools in Joliet D86. We opened them up in August. So we look at those numbers. Those came in just under $500 a square foot, okay? This 63.4 and 96,000 square feet is $658 a square foot, okay? We need to start out reasonably conservative, okay? We don't have a design. Design has not commenced. So starting out reasonably conservative, it allows us to refine the budget as the design's progressing. So as we get through different design issuances and different milestones, and there's more comfort and cost associated with that design, we can whittle the budget down. There's going to be unsuitable soils potentially. We're going to do geotech. There's all sorts of things that we need to get through before we're confident in reducing that starting point. So at 658, it's a reasonable starting point. Another thing to keep in mind, the Joliet bid openings, tremendously competitive. When we look at the spread from the low bidder to the second bidder across all the bid packages at the two schools, it was a massive number. Not a million or two, 10 million north, okay? So we don't want to count on the best case scenario taking place on bid day, all right? We hope for that. We expect great competitive bidding, but we don't want to assume the best case scenario. Another thing is the Joliet schools were 300,000 square feet, so max economies of scale. Okay, here we have 96,000 square feet. We're not going to quite get that economies of scale, but nevertheless, there is some expectation. So that just, it's important to know the 63.4 just wasn't some number that was just, pulled out of thin air, okay? There is validity to it, and there's nothing better than really assessing and doing a deep dive in comparison with comparable scope of work that was recently bid. It's the best way to go about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The other part of Joe and his team's estimate was based on what kind of a building are you building. And he has told us that there are districts that will spend $700, $800 or more per square foot. We gauge the community's input and say, we don't want to build a bare bones building that's going to last for 50 years and represent our community for decades to come. So we take that decision very seriously. But we are not the kind of community, nor should we be, that we were going to build an extravagant building. And some people do that. There are football stadiums in Texas that I've visited that are $55 million just for the dang football stadium, okay? We're not of that ilk either, right? But here's what I'm saying. We try to build something that's quality that people could be proud of without being extravagant. So not the cheapest option, but certainly not the most expensive option. But we think we should do a little bit better than the bare bones because this will represent our community. This is where our kids will be educated for decades to come. Now, there are basically three pathways. One is continue to do what we're doing, which, quite frankly, is not really sustainable. Kicking the can down the road, not getting the additional funding, educating our kids in substandard buildings, and pouring money to repair them constantly. And it's just, the budget is not meant for that. If that is what we're faced with, we will have to reduce services. There is no other option. The roof at the high school is on the verge of collapse, quite frankly, and that is the truth. We're trying to do repairs. We're hoping for the referendum. If it does not pass, we've got to make some replacements with boilers, with PA systems, with roofs, and we start taking that from our annual budget. That would require a reduction in the number of staff we have, and the number of social workers, and the number of counselors, and the number of teachers, class sizes, etc. The number of services will be diminished if this is the path we go down. That excellence that I demonstrated to you, becoming a premier district in the state and nation, is in jeopardy if we go down that path. That would break my heart. That is in the hands of the taxpayers of this district. The second would be to renovate. If you went to the tour, what the renovations that are needed here and at Miller's, it's extensive, not quite as intense at Miller. Renovating these two buildings would cost in the neighborhood of $40 million either way. Perhaps more depending on what they find. I believe, and the board believes, and the community input that we received, even people who say we're not going to vote for this, the same people say these buildings are terrible, there's no sense in renovating them. We came to the same conclusion. The community engagement process says it makes more sense to build a pre-K through 5 new building than put $40-some million into renovating these two buildings. I'm very confident, having spent 40 years in education, that we would regret that as a community. So that was the consensus, not the unanimous belief, but the consensus of our community was it's smarter to build new rather than put money into renovation. So that's how we came to the idea of building one new building. Now there is a cost savings to this because of with energy efficiency and some consolidation of positions that we would do through retirements and not just cutting positions. We approximate that we could save $600,000 to $700,000 annually. So as a school district, over time, we would save millions of dollars, and that would offset some of the additional costs between renovation and building new. So this is how we came to this conclusion. We didn't just do this lightly. We engaged the community. Is that a unanimous decision? No, but it was a strong consensus community decision that it would be better to build one pre-K through 5 building than to renovate 2 additional buildings. So, I'm not going to read through all of this, I'm just going to tell you, we are fighting for the taxpayers and for our students and our district. We are trying to do what's best. We are being creative, problem solving, listening. We are trying to find the best investment. And then when it comes to the location, which is something I'll talk about in a minute, we have options. Some of them include eminent domain, where we would have to ask businesses or homeowners to take their property so we could build a new construction site. That is an option that's available. It's not one that we prefer. We are trying to avoid that. So we are in negotiations with other opportunities, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we are trying to do everything we can. And we have constraints, we have to build it within this community. And we are attempting to balance either a central location or a continuous campus. Those are some of our priorities. Plus something that's affordable and something that will attempt to avoid displacement of students. It's not always the best way if you have to be renovating while you're trying to educate. So avoiding displacement and the disruption, these are all the things that we have considered very seriously. Now, legally, under FOIA rules, you cannot disclose when you're in the middle of negotiations to protect the district, to protect the leverage we have as we're in negotiations trying to get the best deal for our community. So, disclosing exactly where we're at, we're in that process. But it would indeed jeopardize our position as a community if we are giving out details about a private negotiation. This is what the law allows for, and this just makes sense. So the question I would ask people is, if you knew that disclosing where we're at negotiations could cost the taxpayers millions of dollars, and we betray the trust of leaders who are completely on the district side, is it still worth revealing those details? The board, the administration, and the leaders we're working with have said, no, it's not worth it, property. But we don't have an option where we would displace 400 students and educate them while we tear down this entire campus and build new. The other thing that has been attractive for the community and taxpayers is this location could help to spur further development in the downtown area, if that makes sense. So if we sold this to the village or developers, they could develop this property, help to spur more business, more taxpayers, relief from additional income. So, and we don't have an option where we can move students around. So that's Manning. We are looking at a few other locations and balancing off the differences between a continuous campus concept and a central location. So we are in negotiations. We are not hiding anything. We want to protect the taxpayers and the district. At the minute we can reveal that information, we will. Trust me. I am an over-communicator. So I want people to know. The minute we can reveal that it's safe to protect our interests as a community, we will reveal it. And we are planning on doing our best to do that before the election takes place. So the other thing is selling our current district properties would offset the cost for purchasing any location site, if that makes sense. The 3 buildings are valued at approximately $7.5 million. We would take the revenue from the sale of our 3 current buildings and then put that towards a new site. Okay, the new building will last for 50 years. We need to make changes. These are not wants, they're a point of need. We do not foresee when we build a new building and we make some significant changes to the other 2 buildings in the district, we should be able to maintain those without coming to the voters again for at least 20 years. That's our projection, maybe longer. Balanced budgets going forward. The value is selling Manning for downtown growth, an increase in home values, an increase in families moving into Westmont, and we modernize our community. So these are our promises to the taxpayers, that we're not going to come back in 5 or 10 years and ask for another referendum. There's no need for it. We can sustain excellence through our annual budget and address all the facility needs through the referendum. We will continue to provide excellence in education and go to higher levels of achievement, and we will continue with balanced budgets. So, academic excellence, we're at the crossroads, high quality versus continued Band-Aid approach. We're the last district to pass a referendum, not the first or the middle. We have demonstrated fiscal responsibility, and we're revealing that we're doing everything possible in our location efforts. So, this is the point in time where we will take any and all questions, and I have a group of leaders here who can help us, but I hope I've made the case that about why we did what we did and how we came to this conclusion. Yes, please.
Hi, thank you.
Yes.
This guy, have you ever seen him not in a suit? He's constantly working tirelessly for this district. Thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Lisa Dell. I have 3 boys in the district, 7 and under. This will directly impact me. I just wanted to get ahead of some of the questions with some of these comments. I am really excited about the concept of a new school and all of these improvements. I think we are allowed to be excited. I think that it doesn't translate to reckless spending or impulsivity. I think that we can express some legitimate concerns here in the town hall, but I think that we can still be excited. I had not seen the rendering of the new building until the last town hall meeting that I came here to, and it's beautiful. I think that we can be excited about that, but the most beautiful thing about it is that it doesn't have mold. And we're, I mean, oh my God, the tour, the electrical hazards, it's insane. One day I won't have kids in the district, and so I think that the second thing I'm most excited about is saying thank you to the tireless teachers and the staff and administrative people and the custodial workers and the therapists who come here day in and day out. I mean, what better way, what more tangible way can you say thank you? What I really want to say is I'm sorry. You know, my apologies for letting it get that bad. I talked to a mom today, so I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here for a second, but I talked to a mom today, and she's a yes person through and through, so am I, And she was saying that if she knows a lot of yes people, but if they don't show up, it's a no, right? Like we have to just have the numbers. Okay, well I think that apathy is our biggest hurdle here. And I think that we need to get enough people to come out and say yes. Talk about it at birthday parties and at sporting practices. Just lead with the good stuff if they're on the fence. Say that all of your kids can go to one school. There'll be new safety, things at the junior high, new labs at the high school. Mrs. Maris can sing in one building instead of two. I mean, it's just endless, all the positive things. And I think that the cost of inaction is actually really great for those who are saying that it costs too much. I think immediately, if the referendum doesn't pass, that sends a message that Westmont doesn't care. People will stop applying to be teachers here. People will leave immediately if we say no, immediately. They will leave for that reason alone. Then, as he said, that the budget will take money from classroom sizes getting bigger. I'm not the only parent in the district that has a special needs child. So many wonderful services are offered to him that make this district unique, and those will start to dwindle, if not entirely go away. And then property values going down, it's endless. But then, just going through this tour, this is going to fail the health code inspection someday. People are going to jump ship. They're not going to allow their kids to be relocated. Some of these things are not saying, but that's something that will happen, and people won't stick around for that. So I don't want that to be the case. I want a bad reputation spreads faster than a good one. I want Westmont to keep its good reputation, and I'm very excited. That's it.
Okay.
How many students are currently at the elementary school?
I'm giving you approximations, but we have about 65 students, a little less than that at South, about 200 at Miller, about 400 at Manning.
So how many are we talking that building would hold? Have you accounted for additional? I just know I worked in 181, and when we opened up Fair Hills, is that max?
That's a situation we have addressed. So we're building for slightly higher than our current enrollment based on enrollment projections in the next few years. So yes, we're taking into account for slight increases, but it would be fiscally irresponsible to build a building much larger and then have empty classrooms, and then the taxpayers would say, why did you put so much money in that you're not even using? So the building of approximately 93,000 square feet would accommodate 650, maybe more, maybe closer to 700 students comfortably. So it would allow for all the current enrollment and a slight increase. Okay.
If the referendum passes, what exactly would the timeline be for starting construction? When would you plan on the school to open? And I guess kind of in line with that is, how did you wind up in this position this time-wise now? It seems like there's a lot of information that still needs to come out, specifically the location. Before the election, when we were 43 days away, 40 days away, it seems like something could have started earlier, so I'm just curious.
There's really two questions there. So, the first one is, the referendum passes, when will the timeline? The bottom line answer is we're looking at occupying in the fall of 27. Because we have to go through a process with our architects, and they have a lot of experience in this, and the construction manager that's highly collaborative, would include the teacher's expertise in how we're constructing the school, and would get community input also. So it'll be a collaborative process to design it. Then there's a bid process, then there's an actual construction process. One of the reasons we went this November instead of April is you can't move a building, kids and teachers in the middle of the year. So by doing it in November with a successful referendum, we could open the doors in 27. If we would have waited till April, we would have had to start in the fall of 28. 1 year is important to us. The only question, and please, I want your toughest questions. You deserve to ask the toughest questions. I welcome them. The only question is unresolved is the location. If there's another question that's unresolved, I could do my very best to answer it, or some of these experts could. We are in negotiations. There are opportunities to us that we have simple solutions that could work, but we're looking for something better for the taxpayers and the community because we're doing this once for the next 50 years. So I think your first question's answered directly, fall of 27. We went now instead of April, so we could go fall of 27 instead of 28. The only unresolved question, and I would take any other question, is where exactly will this be located? I can tell you this, it's going to be located within the district. We're not building like a space station out there to build this building. It has to be within the proximity. A concern is where in the district. I understand that. We are doing the two, there's a lot of those different considerations. We take them all seriously, but we're looking at what will best serve our community, our taxpayers. We're fighting for you. I promise that, to get the best deal, and that is taking a little bit of time.
Just a brief follow-up on that.
Yes, please.
You said there's a possibility the location wouldn't be known until after the election. If that were the case and it doesn't pass this time around, would it be back on the ballot in April then?
We're trying not to think that way, but yes, to answer your question directly. So and we're hoping that we'll have more information. We've added an additional meeting on October 15th because that's in time. We feel like we'll tell you everything that we can at that meeting, and hopefully we will reveal everything that it's wise to reveal. But to answer your question directly, if we will know if I don't want to say this, but if it does not pass in November, we would come back in April and the location issue would be resolved. But that would delay the opening, and there would be additional costs of that too. So, yes, please. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the high school.
Yes.
I heard that if the referendum does not pass, the high school is going to close. And that if you're on the west side of Cass Avenue, you go to Dahmer's North, and if you're on the east side, you go to Hinsdale High School. Why would that school close?
If anybody's interested, I will give you an hour about our high school and all the details. Because I'm going to argue that it is easily the most improved school in the United States of America, and I think there's a finite number.
My son went there.
Yes, that's awesome, thank you. Give me the name of the school that can compete with us when you look at all the criteria. I showed you ISBE. Okay, let's just put this to rest because it's a ISBE number one. I'll answer the question. We're not closing that high school. That would be ridiculous. Anybody who proposes that is out of their mind. Here's the thing. Blue Ribbon, top, number one in the country. Not just in Illinois, number one in the country. Number one in the state of Illinois. Most improved in the nation. Top score in the state. Time and time again, we are rated number one. Why would we send our kids to even Hinsdale Central or Downers Grove North or nothing? That school will not close. It would be the stupidest decision anybody ever made. And frankly, you have to get other people to accept that. And the taxes. In that Chicago magazine, I didn't even print this one. This is the next Chicago magazine article. Best public high schools. Westmont's rated number 2 in DuPage County, behind Hinsdale Central. The criteria they use is per pupil expenditure. If we had spent more money, we would have been rated number 1 in DuPage, but since we got penalized for spending less, for being fiscally responsible. So to answer the question directly, we're not closing that school. That would be a travesty. It's not happening. Somebody comes up with an idea, they throw it on the internet. Don't believe everything you read on the internet.
To add,
Pardon?
That is what's been going around.
Well, this is what we live in the social media age, right? People can put anything. Not everything they put on the internet is true or accurate. So there's no truth to that. Yes.
To add that, we are putting money into the high school. So even if the referendum does pass, some of the $74.6 million will go towards the high school. So there's no way the high school will be closing.
So another thing I want to add to that, I'm Adina Hoovers. I'm the president of the school board. One of the things, there's many things to take away, but on this topic, one thing to truly take away, not answering rumors on social media. And this is why we're having it, so you can ask your questions.
Yes.
But the big thing to take away that we're saying here is that we're at this crossroads with needing new facilities, especially at the elementary level. And one of the main things Dr. Balderman spoke about is if this doesn't happen. I don't like to think in those terms. We have a need. We have a parent so eloquently stating what this means and why to be excited about this. But if this doesn't happen, then we start to, the thing that you should take away that could happen and very well may happen is that funds would have to be taken away to answer questions about a roof that's failing or a boiler that doesn't work. We have to take away, so what does that mean? Okay, take away out of one budget, out of a bucket to put away. What does that mean? You're taking away services from students. So we're not talking about closing buildings. We're talking about services and the educational quality that we're reaching and reaching higher for. That halts. So that's what we should take away, and maybe even you can help to give responses to, like, no, there's no talk about closing schools, but you may take away services from our kids that they so detrimentally need if this doesn't happen. And our community can answer to that. Our community is great and have answered so much for our kids, but we have to, we're at a point that we have to do something. Is there something to take away from them? I say no, but our community has to say what they want.
Quite a bit away. They took wood shop and all that away. It's all economics now.
I want to address that because that's another thing. Yeah, 15 years ago, before the current board, current administration was present, they closed the wood shop at Westmont High School. What our kids have at the Technology Center of DuPage could not be duplicated in a district of this size. There's incredible programs that starting in junior year, high school students could take advantage of. Half of their schedule, half of their day, starting in junior year and through senior year, could be at the Technology Center of DuPage. Now, if you visit that campus, it is incredible. We could never replicate that here in Westmont. Well, I guess we could if people wanted to spend millions and millions of dollars. But in a variety of different areas, from health and fire science, to law enforcement, to cosmetology, to the building trades and construction trades, and a plethora of different options. Students can go and experience a high-quality facility and spend half of their day in junior year and half of their day in senior year experiencing that. So we closed the wood shop. This is true. That was 15 years ago, but the point is that to replicate that, we have programs for students who are interested in that.
And getting
Yes.
so much more. They're getting credit towards
Yes.
those fields.
Here and then here.
They're not taken away.
Well, I was wondering what they're going to do for the next 3 years before they build a new one. I mean, these conditions of this building are really bad.
Yes, they are. That's why we're doing this, and when people say you're moving too quickly, we have people say we're moving too quickly, and then we have other people saying we need to move more quickly. We're moving as quick as we can, and I appreciate that. But in the meantime, we're going to do the best we can to maintain the buildings. We don't have a choice, and we will move as efficiently as possible to get the new building built.
Is it safe for the kids to be coming here?
It is safe. It's not optimal. There's things that must be done.
I mean, my granddaughter's sitting on a milk crate with a cushion on it. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't buy chairs. There's no chairs from the schools that have closed before that we can get them.
Well, I don't know about the particular situation you're speaking of, and you can see there's, hundreds of chairs here.
Go to the classroom and see it.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a good job with our facilities under the circumstances. This is exactly why we're coming to you. This is why we're coming to you now. I am sad that we didn't do this. There were attempts at referendums in the past. Some of those referendum attempts were just to do some repair work. And we came to the conclusion that a new building would be a much better use of taxpayer dollars. So I appreciate your sense of urgency. And I would fall on your side of the continuum. There are people who say we're moving too quickly. There's some people who say we don't really need this. So I appreciate it. We are trying to go as quickly and efficiently as possible to give our kids and our teachers and our community the facilities they deserve.
Those of you that know me know I don't need a microphone. I was here last night, and sometimes when I say things come across the wrong way, and I want to compliment the district and all the work you've done and the whole school thing, okay? I'm for a new school. I want to get that out there. I'm for a new school. I'm the one saying it's too quickly. okay? I'm one. I got this card the day that the meeting was. That's when I got the
You mean
card.
the first meeting of the 17th?
And it came, yeah, so I had to come to a later meeting, which is fine, okay? I haven't gotten anything since, any fact sheets. So these people in this community that don't have computers, that don't have kids in school, by the way, I taught in this district for 36 years. So I know the community. We've lived here for 40. So I know the community. And so I know when I was here when they built the junior high and the high school. That's how old I am. Okay? So I got this card, and then I come to the meeting, and then you're talking about the referendum and such, and I find out that July 18th was the last meeting, and the school district filed for the referendum on August 16th. Now, there's time in between there that you have to do stuff. You have to send it to them, they have to approve it, it's got to come back and forth. So there's a couple weeks involved with that. Now, August 16th, and now we're talking September 26th. Okay, so, a month and a half. We're just talking about it. And I like the part that we're saying, we'll find out before this vote, before the voting. Early voting started today. It's on the ballot today. If you go to the Park District down in Downers Grove, it's on the ballot. And we're talking about it now. To me, that's rushing it. We don't even have the answers.
Answer.
Yeah.
I would not say plural. Is there any other
I
answer?
think there's more. I think
Okay,
there's more.
go ahead.
Because
Please ask.
I mentioned this before.
Yes.
I just want to make sure. I get that. I wish it was like on the site, on the website, it says fiscally responsible in a central location. And I understand where they want to put it somewhere up by the other campuses. I get that.
Perhaps. That is.
I get that. That's where the school district wants it. I get that. And you're trying to, maybe that's more fiscally responsible. Centrally located, obviously, would be this building. That just makes sense. They did it 90 years ago for that reason. So I can see. So that's one thing where the school is. But that's not really as important to me at this point, because I think it's going to pass eventually. And I think that's a good idea. I think that's good for our district. But some of you aren't aware, when they closed South School, and I live right across the street from South School. I moved there because of South School. They closed it, and they closed it in like, I'm going to get it wrong, but they closed it quick, and then the next year they moved them to Manning. And then they put in South School, an alternative school. What does that mean? People from Burr Ridge, the behavior kids in Burr Ridge, were sent to our district across from my street, and I watched them as they came in with chains on their arms, things on their legs, and they scanned them for metal and guns.
Wow.
When was this?
20 years ago. 20 years ago. We have no word about it. Nothing. Nothing was told to us. So if I'm a little apprehensive, what's that? Do you remember that? It really wasn't out there, so people don't know about that. So I'm a little apprehensive about, selling South School and all that. But, okay, I looked into today, and the last meeting I said, okay, so what if you sell South School? You said it's zoned residential. Yes, that's true. Only if you tear it down. If you don't tear that building down, they can put another school there, an alternative school across from where I live. Now, do you see where I'm a little bit nervous about the whole thing? I'd like to know you're going to tear that down. That could happen at Miller.
Right.
If you tear Miller down, it's zoned residential, then it has to be, there's a couple, I got things here, the permit things. There's a couple things that it could be, like a group home and things like that. But a permit, if they put a school there or a school buys that, they don't have to go to the village. If they come to the district and say, we'll give you $10 million for that building, are you going to jump on it, and then what happens to us? We're going to give you our tax dollars, and then my property value goes down because of the school. I like a commitment that that building is going to be torn down if you're going to sell it. The other thing is, if you look at the...
Go ahead. Because I want to be able to honestly answer your questions.
Go ahead.
I don't, because that's quite a complex question
I
you're
looked it up
asking.
today. Well, it's not a question, I looked it up, that's a fact.
No, but I think you're asking, if we sold, what do you exactly
If you
asking?
sell it and somebody buys it, they can put a school there because it is a school. They wouldn't build the junior high there?
No, they'd have to go to planning and zoning.
They would have
to-
I'm on planning and zoning.
I talked to Steve May today. He sent me the stuff.
When it gets sold,
Steve
it'll
makes
go
it
out.
go
It'll go
ahead.
out.
Steve, he said it has to be torn down to be residential. Now, you might be on planning and zoning. He said
But I want to ask,
there's
what is the
permanent and special permanent. And I did all that.
I get that. These are questions
These
really
are
not
questions,
for
they're not-
our districts. You're saying there are things that are left unsaid or unanswered.
Right.
How is that an answer to this building not being able to function anymore and building a new?
Oh, I'm saying build a new
That doesn't-
building.
that's not a
I'm
statement.
saying build a new building, but you're asking me to give extra $1,000 in my taxes and maybe send it all the kids up to a campus, and then they put it, then you sell the school and they put it right across the street from me.
But
an
that, those
alternative.
are
No,
hypotheticals that, I don't know. if
I
that's
know it's
gonna
hypothetical,
happen.
so what I'm saying is, would you commit to saying I'm going to tear it down so it's only residential? Because I wouldn't mind having the homes across the street. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
none of us would.
I think we have to have other people in the room, planning and zoning, that's not part of us, that we can't make them commit to what to do. So
No, I know. I know.
I do.
But no, I'm not. South School is situated across the 3 platted residential lots zoned to R3. If the building were to come down, the only option is single-family construction for park or open space. If the building is sold to private or even interest, public interest, the issues are controlled by the zoning code. Permitted uses are listed, which is a school, and can be proposed without requiring board VP approval. Board.
I'm not, I appreciate.
So you see what I'm saying?
I do, but here's the thing. If we would probably, those are hypotheticals, number one, I'm not saying they're not true. And then if we sold the property, if the village was considering doing something of that nature, that would be an issue as taxpayers that I think you'd have to take up with the village.
Then I'd have to fight it there. I'd like to fight it with here and get it resolved before all the issues.
You want to fight a hypothetical here?
No, I'd like it if you said, well, here, let me say one
Yeah,
other
sure.
thing. Let me just finish.
I wouldn't.
Let me just finish one
Sure,
other
sure.
thing. The referendum says, and I think it was in a rush, let's see, shall the Board of Education of Westmont, Unit School District Number 201, DuPage County, Illinois, build and equip a school building to replace the J.T. Manning and C.E. Miller elementary school buildings, acquire land, alter, repair, and such is what you said. South School is not mentioned in here. Now, you're telling me tonight South Schools might be sold. Well,
That's a possibility.
See, so there are too many questions that aren't answered, is what I'm saying. Before a referendum, I have these questions, and I'm sure other people at the Miller side. I'm for the school. You sold me on the school. It's not that. I'm for the school. Okay, I want everybody to understand that. But I also am for the residents of this community, and I want to get these things resolved before everything. And they're not. And right now, it's early voting. So I appreciate everybody saying, oh, October 15th, we're going to have another meeting before the election. Yeah, I don't think so. The election's now. So
I think it's unfair that you ask want a definitive answer on something.
I'm not asking.
hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how anybody could do that for you. I live right by South School too.
Right. So
I've been here for
you'd be
25
okay with an
years. I've
alternative
seen it.
school.
I've not seen what you're talking about.
Right.
Maybe you saw it, and that's fine. I can tell you that's not what's happening now.
But no, you're right. You're right. But my point is, it's going too fast. I'm the one saying it's going too quickly. It would have been nice to have this resolved before it went on the referendum. It would have been nice to have this meeting shortly after August 16th when it was filed. It would have been nice to know it was going to be filed. It would, all those things would have been nice to know.
We did
It's
have,
a little bit late
in
now.
fairness, let me say this please. We held a series of meetings this summer,
And
and we announced those. And we tried to get as many people as possible at those meetings this summer before the board voted to get committed. And then we engaged engagement experts,
Right.
Sullivan Company, to do phone calling, to send out surveys, to send out literature, to get feedback. And that's in part how we came to the conclusion that building a new building was better than renovating existing buildings. So that we did, and then we had a series of meetings. And then the board meetings are public.
Right.
And the board had, on 2 consecutive meetings, discussed the possibility of putting the referendum forward, in addition to committee meetings. So there were meetings that took place that were all announced publicly, and that everybody in the public was invited to those. So it's not as if we did not engage in the community.
When you say everybody's invited to those, did you send out a flyer to all the people in this community that said we're going to be talking about the referendum at this board meeting? No, I don't have any kids here. I don't know. Moving too quickly, that's what people are talking about. There's answers to questions that should be answered prior to going on the referendum, and it's a little late now. So
and I think you're right. These are conversations that we've had. There have been, let me speak, there have been committee meetings and inviting the community out. But I think you're right. These are things that are brought up beforehand, and there are pros and cons to all types of arguments. And you're always going to have people that want a little bit more. There are people who's like, I want less. Let's get going. And so I think those are legitimate. And your argument has been talked about in different groups. Like, do we go down? Do we wait? Do we wait 2 years? Do we get more and more and more and more information? Meanwhile, we have this building that will not like. So I can say that, but and I just want to say that, as Dr. Baldwin said, there's always, pros and cons to the argument of now, later, just taking everything together. Not everyone, but the majority of people that did come out and speak, and a very well-rounded group of community members came out to speak. The answer was, we need to do this now. And so, yes, all that, we've gotten those arguments, even within the board, even with board members. Not now, later, so we kind of handled that and came to that conclusion with the input of the community. And
yes.
That's where we are. So
Do
I
we
just
have
want to say
other
that.
comments, questions, or statements? Please.
okay.
My question is in regard to location.
Yes.
So you had made the comment that if you put the building at South or at Miller through eminent domain, you would have to, okay. So the contiguous campus, I'm assuming what you mean is you would put it up by the junior high and the high school. Is that correct?
That's an option.
Here's the question. You're a resident that lives right there.
Yes.
Would you take land through eminent domain in order to put a grade school in there?
We're doing everything we can to avoid that.
No, yes or no. Would you take eminent domain to be able to?
If you put me in a corner and want an answer, the answer is no. The current thinking is no.
You can put a building of that size on any land that is near the junior high or the high school.
I can't be more transparent than answering your question directly with a no. So that's what you asked for, and I gave it to you. Now, if I keep saying more things, we're in that position where we are jeopardizing some of our leverage. It's a private negotiation on behalf of the taxpayers in the community. But one of the reasons why we are exploring that and another option is to avoid eminent domain. So to answer your question as straightforwardly as possible, with being very careful here, you asked me for a direct answer, the answer is no. You got it. This is assuming that we can negotiate through, but I appreciate what you're saying. We are not looking at taking any homes in that area, no. No, no.
Jack, I have just one more thing.
Please let other people be allowed.
Just a question. Was there any other solutions aside from raising the taxes in order to fund the project?
Yes. There was a gentleman who proposed the idea of asking the village to increase the tax rate, sales tax rate, and we explored that with the village of Westmont, and their legal counsel said that's not an option. That's a no-go.
Why not?
You'd have to ask the village and their attorneys. But it's highly unprecedented. As I said, I've been an educator in Illinois for 40 years. And we are if I can find this slide, as you know, we are one of the last people to ask for a referendum. Not the first, not the middle. So the way you have to ask your taxpayers if you want to build a new building. The 1% tax increase, first of all, we're not a home rule district. So it kind of negates that possibility.
What is that?
Who can explain a home rule finance?
Anthony? If you have 25,000 residents in your community, then you can do things with sales tax, such as levy a sales tax on something like auto dealers to raise the funds to do something like this. We tried to be a home rule community. It was voted down. down twice in the past, so that option is off the table. Westmont did have the option to become home rule in the past, but they voted it down twice. It went to a referendum. So the option to do something like a special tax on the car dealerships, for example, to raise the money, which would be an option, isn't an option.
It also still has to go through a referendum vote. So the community still has to vote on that. And then you're expecting, you know, the businesses in Westmont to foot the bill for this project. So they're giving away their sales tax on their income and put it towards the school. So again, it's still a process from the county level to the village and voter approval.
And to make it further complicated, isn't it true, that would go to all of Westmont, not just our district?
Correct, it does. So it's all Westmont.
So I guess this is not a question for us, or maybe, don't they receive some sort of tax incentives to be here in Westmont?
The businesses?
The businesses, yeah.
Well, there's a TIF district.
A TIF.
Yeah. So the downtown is a TIF district, but that TIF also has an expiration date. So that expiration date is 2036.
So what the other businesses, do they receive tax incentives to do business here?
Depends if they're in the TIF district or not. So the TIF district runs from Burlington down to Naperville. So within that downtown Westmont is our TIF. There's a different TIF on the other side of Westmont near the Amazon Fresh. So that's not our district. So those two are the major TIF districts in Westmont. So for COC 201, it's just that small pocket of businesses. Outside of that, they don't have any incentives. And that incentive TIF program runs up in 2036. And that's a village approval. The district cannot, assess a TIF. That's from the village level.
So the businesses are not then, like the dealership, the car dealerships,
they're not in the TIF.
They're not in the TIF. They do pay taxes.
I'm just wondering if they pay deferred taxes, because I hear businesses, in order to attract businesses here to a city, the village offers tax incentives just to create.
That's the TIF. So the TIF, yeah. So the TIF.
It's just downtown. Got it.
Yeah. Originally, they did it to boom the downtown.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you for the presentation tonight. I just wanted to clarify, because it's a little unclear in the wording on the ballot and then also on one of the slides. So beyond the 63 million for the new elementary school, what's the scope that's included in this total amount for the high school and the junior high? Because specifically it just says that the high school and junior high have roof repairs, but are the other infrastructure and parking lot and science labs, are those going into these existing buildings for the 3-year time span in between that need to be upgraded, or is that going to the high school and junior high?
This is primarily for the junior high school. These expenditures, the thinking there, the remaining money, to answer your question directly, would almost exclusively go to the junior high and the high school. The idea is we're trying not to put considerable funds into buildings we would be taking down rather soon. So most of the rest of the funding would go to the junior high and the high school. Have
you guys had any interest in selling buildings? You don't have to name names, but just if there's a lot of interest in purchasing what
it's part of the full package. So the full package, during the negotiations, is the offset cost of the project. So, there are conversations of selling the property of Manning, but that's encumbered into the whole picture.
I guess that's my question then, is how can you incorporate into the amounts that you're asking from the village if you don't know exactly how much interest is in selling the property? They could sit here, make it for 3-4 years, become decrepit and not worth $7.5 million anymore. So are there people that are interested in buying these locations?
At this time, it's all determined by the voter approval. But the goal is to offset the cost. So if the village buys it or a second entity buys it, it's to offset the purchase of our referendum.
So there's no confirmed interest in purchasing the
buildings? Well, I'll say this. We have to be careful here. It's not about negotiation for land. But we think that this property...
interest is good for negotiation.
Absolutely. Well, I'll say this. There's significant interest in this property. we haven't gauged as much for Miller and South. But for this property, absolutely, because of its prime location, the village has told us as much.
And it's going back to the TIP district, there's tax incentives for someone buying it and having a business in downtown.
Is this included in the TIF district? Or
This is.
only on
This is TIP.
Not a lot of land to build in Westmont. So those lots are worth a heck of a lot of money. And you're going to see a lot of people interested in them. So I wouldn't worry about that. I'd focus on what do we need to do to get this passed. What do we need to do to get healthy buildings for our students? And do it before we have to wait any longer. Papa Nicholas, where are you? 4 to 5% a year, right? Yeah. Every year we wait, 4 to 5%. Okay? The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost all of us because it's going to have to be done. It's not a want anymore.
The longer we wait, it's just a quick question.
Sure.
When you get that. On the proposed referendum package that's in the village, in your thing, it says South Elementary School, $1,495,000. Westmont, this is proposed referendum projects. It's got South, Westmont Junior High, Westmont High School, new school total, $74,600,000. Now, if you're saying you're going to sell South, what's this doing here? And again, I don't understand.
Okay. You want to say a little bit about that, Anthony? The original proposal?
Yeah, so that's the original proposal to have South. So that would just to have roof repairs, update the ADA compliance of the bathrooms, to have South. So that's the original proposal.
Okay. Is that the same amount of money you're asking for, though? 74.6?
74.6. But that just breaks down per building.
So if
if we sell South, those funds would be distributed to the high school and junior high.
Okay.
It's a fair question. Let me say this too. The high school science labs are the same ones that were built in the mid-70s. They are perhaps some of the weakest science labs that I've seen of any high school. We originally proposed $90 million referendum and the community said less. We will have to address that some. We can make some increases, but this is what we're talking about. So, any other questions or comments, please?
I just had I guess I'm ignorant to this question, so I'm just going to ask you directly.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so say I live across the street from Manning.
Yes.
I have a home value as X. You guys knock this down. You guys build a school about a mile and a half away, let's just say, or like a half mile. Will my home value go down because I'm not across the street anymore?
I wouldn't pretend to be an expert about that. Maybe someone else in the room has that expertise. So the thing I will say is,
because I think that's why everyone's like, yeah,
we can only build it in one place. There aren't people who want, the idea is that we could build 2 new buildings, but I don't think that would ever fly, right? We could build one at 2 different places, closer location. That's just not going to fly. So the one building consolidation has a lot of financial advantages. We're of the mindset that we keep achieving academic excellence and we build a new elementary school that is beautiful and high functioning, and that will be very beneficial to the taxpayers of this district. Everybody. So there is, of course, the concern for our taxpayers that goes in addition to serving our kids well and give them a healthy building. So I'm not an expert to tell you, I'm not going to pretend that I can say
that. Anybody here?
No, but living here is driving downtown.
So I agree.
Area.
I agree on this.
Yeah. So going to your question. Okay. Yeah. So if you're saying that you live near Manning and Manning sells and it goes a mile, hypothetically, and Manning goes a mile, 2 miles down the road, does your house value go down?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. You know why? Because
if I'm in
the downtown, in the school district, the downtown would grow from the sale of Manning. So individuals will be coming to downtown Westmont for downtown Westmont, the value of Westmont, just businesses, small, and the beautiful schools. So those are the 3 criteria people move into, and safe environment. So those criteria is why families move in. So it's hard to justify the value going down when we're already bringing value to downtown Westmont by consolidating the school and selling a building for the value of downtown.
Would everyone's value go up if they lived in the school district boundary?
Would every school house value go up?
House value go up if they are in the boundary, or do they have to live like near the school?
No. We all feed into one CUSD 201. Every school is CUSD 201 in our district boundaries. So going back to the slides of all the awards and Blue Ribbon, we're still going to have those awards. We're just going to have a brand new, beautiful school to add to it. So I don't see the house values go down. It would only go up.
Can I say something about that? I just moved from an in-house district. I was in 201 to another house in 201. I used to live in Blackhawk Heights in Clarendon Hills. And my neighbors that we shared a backyard, they are in 181. They're Hinsdale Central. My house value was actually down because I wasn't in 181 versus theirs. We had same house, whatever. Mine's going down because I wasn't in their district. I then bought my house over in Oakwood, and I'm right across the street from both the junior high and the high school, and my value is the same as my sister's who lives on the other side of town in 201's district. So like the value thing, I feel like I don't have an expertise other than being a home buyer and like seeing that play out in my life. It matters what the district you're in, not the location where you're at. I thought for sure that my home value being right across the street from a school, like, oh yeah, that's perfect location, right? But it didn't matter.
The location.
If everyone didn't benefit from it, who cares where it is?
That's a very good point.
Who cares?
Very good point. There was a gentleman here last night, and I forget his name, Jack. He noted that when he looked at all the various school districts around us that had done referendums in the most recent times, their property values increased 40 to 44%, whereas in the same time frame, ours has only increased 20%. So if we think about it in that light and say, well, we're going to reinvest in our community, we're going to make sure we have a quality school, then as they say in investments, every ship rises in a rising tide. So we should all see a value to our homes appreciating. So, and I know Jack has shared some stories of, families coming to look at homes in our areas, and they want to meet the school district, they want to tour the schools, and if you've toured the school here and you thought about putting your child through here, you probably have some of the same concerns, and why would I want to invest my money in a town where I'm not going to have a great environment for my children to grow and learn in? Now, my kids have gone through the district, they're out. I'm going to be retiring in a few years, and this is going to be a lot more money for me. Do I want to spend the money? Absolutely not. Do I think it's needed? Absolutely, and I'm happy to do it because I know there's going to be other families that have young kids. I had the benefit of using the school district. Why shouldn't they have a great school district and continue to see the flourishing that Jack and his team have done? So we need to think about not just what we want, but what's best for the community at large. And that's why it's critical.
Kids are the future, right?
Yes.
And
there's a big draw for the downtown area. I mean, you can just take a look at Westmont in the last 10, 15 years, and how they've revitalized that whole area. People like living right here in these quadrants, if you will. That's what we used to call them. And so I think there's always a draw here. So regardless of what is built here, I think absolutely you're going to see, I don't see your values going down. And even if the school was not in this exact location, it was a half a mile away, people when they go to shop for a home and they have got a young family, the first thing they're looking for is, what's the quality of the district? That's the first question, the quality of the district. Maybe secondary or third down the road is, well, is there a home close to the school where I can walk my kids to school? Maybe that comes into play. But right, but that it only happens for a short time. But I think the first question is, where are my kids going to go through school, through K through 12, and get a quality education? And I think that's the biggest draw, not necessarily where the school is itself.
And to add on that, I'm a 201 grad. I've lived in the town for 35 years, made myself here. But I know I'm sending my kids to school, and like I said, I just moved from one housing district to another house because I sat down with the principal at the high school. I have a freshman this year, and I said to him, I need you to sell me that this is the high school where my kid belongs. And I left that meeting and signed the papers, buy the house. Because these people care so deeply about our kids. They are so known, they are so valued. You're not gonna get that in 181. You're not gonna get that at Downers Grove North. You're paying for what you're getting. And you're getting some of the best staff that I have ever seen. And I truly, truly believe that we're not only doing this for like our kids, we're doing it for those people who have like put it down for our kids for how many years. Mr. Forsley, where did he go? Did he leave? Mr. Forsley, the gentleman who was talking over here, he was my junior high vice principal. I've known him since I was 10 years old. Like, people come and they stay for a reason. And part of that reason is the community that we all know we have. Now we just have to put our money where our mouth is, basically.
And I've shared this with, before I became on the school board, I shared it with Dr. Balderman. I'm a physician, and I'm around a lot of bougie people. That's what I say, I keep it plain. And there have been people and we're involved in so many different activities. And I've had people that's like, what are you doing, Anita? Send your kids to private school. You need to send them here. You need to have you seen Westmont and what they've been doing at this small school? I'm at a private school. Teachers know my kids. I'm not gonna say, oh, you should move and you should go to Hinsdale Central. I tell you for truth, my daughter wouldn't have survived there. She wouldn't have got what she needed. And if she was at a large school, I don't think she would have gotten what she needed at a private school either, to be frank. So not to match what was happening here. So, and then I still meet people, now they're hearing about Westmont. Oh my gosh, someone walked up to me and I saw you guys got an award in Blue Ribbon. Oh yeah, we did. I don't care where that school is. It could be sitting right across the tracks. I swear every time I have to cross it, there's a train coming. In the end, if that high school was on the other side of the tracks, they would be there. It does not matter. What matters is the quality of education that they can get here and that they have gotten here. And my kids won't see any parts of an elementary school. It'll be over for me, tear. But now I feel like this is a part that we give back to. I love talking to new families and why they should come to Westmont and ask me about it. And different physicians are like, oh, I hear about your schools. What? Tell me about it. Okay. I'm like, Jack, I'll talk to you. You want to talk for an hour? I'll talk for an hour. But that's what it comes down to. I know in a perfect situation, and I'm one of those. I've sat in meetings like, but what about this? Can we get this? I have a question to this. My questions won't stop. That doesn't mean we should stop this process. We got to get going. And so as a parent here, that's what I've seen. That's what I want to get back. It's time for, to put that in action. Yes, keep the questions coming. That's the community we have. Get involved with us. I've learned so much from different citizens here and people. It takes a village, right? People who've helped me with my own kids. Yes, we want that. I don't want that to deter you from saying this needs to be done. We need your questions. We need your ideas. We're going to need it. Location to come before or after a vote. We still need it. We need it to build a building that we need, that we want. Yes, we need all of that, but that shouldn't stop us.
And to your point, Adina, I always tell myself I'm paying public school prices for private school. Like my kids' class sizes are smaller than my neighbors who go to St. Mary's.
And I raise that to them.
So like my neighbors' kids are going to paying way more for a bigger class at an elementary school level. Yeah.
We'll stay after. Thank you for your time, and your time is your most valuable resource. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here tonight. We do have a meeting Saturday. You can share that with your neighbors. October 1st, October 8th also. If you want to, please invite anybody to come. Thank you for being here this evening.